special lecture today, Dr. Yu-Cheng from Fengjia University in Taiwan. Actually, I have to say that he's a close friend of mine, all right? And he is a graduate of the School of Government and Society, University of Birmingham in the UK. His Ph.D. was involved with the title of the Eisenhower administration and U.S. economic and foreign policy towards Latin America, right? From 1953 to 61. All right, so he's kind of like an expert and a guru on the U.S. foreign policy. But anyway, I think that some of the participants are also probably knowledgeable or came across some of the informations about U.S. Foreign policy, especially the policy towards Southeast Asia, right? Because most of us are in this region, except Fang Fang. But Fang Fang could join in discussion when we talk about the two giant power competing between U.S. and China.
No problem.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So the reason really that I think that we should learn or we should know a little bit about Indo-Pacific strategy in terms of public policy development, because when it comes to studying of public policy development in Thailand, I would have to say that from my own perspective, foreign policy is somewhat on the sideline. You know, like we talk very much about economic and social policy, while these days we are so interdependent. We are so kind of like interdependent on the multilateralism and stuff, and also regionalism, those concepts and practices. So I think we learn a little bit about this would be to benefit of those who want to become a policymakers in the future or policy analysts in the future, right? I and Dr. Terry or Dr. Yu-Cheng delighted to welcome all of you to our session. Okay, and we hope that you will join in discussion if you want to, right? Okay, the floor is yours now, Dr. Tang.
Okay. So can you guys see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good morning, dear participants. Well, my name is Yu-Cheng and I currently an adjunct assistant professor at Fengjia University. Well, it is my great honor to be invited by Professor Dhiyathad to do a special lecture online. And also, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to NIDA to give this precious opportunity to share my recent research with you. And let's introduce. Let me introduce myself as Professor Dhiyathad just said, and I am a University of Birmingham graduate, and my training is all about U.S. foreign policy, American history, and Cold War historiography. And currently, I am a postdoctoral research at Indian University of Science and Technology and Fengjia, but I play three kind of different roles in three different organizations. All right. So before I start, I would like to ask you some questions. Let's have a look at this slide. Who do you support? All right. So look at this slide, and I'm asking this because three presidents are involved in constructing the Indo-Pacific strategy. Will that be Obama? All right. He's the man of many slogans, from a world greater together, betting on America, changing we can believe in, and so on. Or actually, you appreciate Obama's approach because of multilateral reason foreign policy. All right. So what does that mean by multilateral reason? Actually, it is a diplomatic term that refers to cooperation among several countries. All right. So next we have this guy, and perhaps I think you guys all know Donald Trump. All right. So Donald Trump is very famous for disruptive languages and calling Kim Jong-un little rocket man and stick puppy. All right. So Trump is an issue-oriented president driven by American first tenet. So what does that mean by bilateral reason? This is another different diplomatic term, but this time refers to cooperation among two countries. So BI means two, all right? And UTI means many, okay? So let's move to Joe Biden. And what do you think Joe Biden's Indo-Pacific strategy will be? And let's talk about his experience under Obama's administration. And he was vice president during Obama administration. But the question is, will Joe Biden bring back Obama's cabinet? In other words, he probably will just, follow Obama's guideline of foreign policy in dealing with some Asia countries, all right? So you can, ask yourself, who do you support? You like Obama, Trump, or Joe Biden? And perhaps we can discuss later on. Okay.
Not really sure about that, but one thing that I'm sure is that aging society is coming.
Yeah. Aging society is coming. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Aging society is coming.
Aging society. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So perhaps Joe Biden, but well, we will see and examine Joe Biden's foreign policy and whether he will just follow Obama's foreign policy. Yeah. Nowadays, lots of people. Well, I don't know. That's be the same in Thailand. It's low birth rate, all right, and low birth rate also leads to the low school administration. Yeah, especially for higher education service. All right, so we need to recruit lots of different students around the world. All right, so let's back to today's main focus and our learning objectives. So you will be able to understand continuity and change of Indo-Pacific concept. Understand underlying influence of traditional beliefs in the foreign policy. Contemporary theoretical discussion in the IR theory. Implications of U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy. All right. So basically, my special lesson will be divided into 4 sections. The first one will be like concept of Indo-Pacific in the GeoStrategic discourse. Second one will talk about the bipartisan belief in shaping Indo-Pacific discourse. And the third one will be contemporary discussion between 2 mainstreams of foreign policy in discussing Indo-Pacific strategy. One is power transition and the other is balance of threat. And the last one, but not this one, we will just discuss or explore the implications of U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy. All right. So let's have a look the concept of Indo-Pacific in the GeoStrategic discourse. So in the past, well, we have Asia Pacific. All right. So this slide is mainly focused on the transition from Asia Pacific to Indo-Pacific. All right. But what's the difference? Fang Fang, do you know the difference? Fang Fang.
Yeah, you mean the Asia Pacific and the Indo-Pacific, right?
Yeah. What's the difference and why the concept shift?
I think first the difference is we can see from this map. It covers different areas in the country. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
and it can also stand for different interests of different countries.
Yes.
Yeah, and why the concept shift? I think because the development of China.
Yes.
Yeah.
May I ask one
Straight
question?
point.
Yeah, straight point. Yeah, may I
Yeah,
ask one question? Fang Fang,
because,
are you from China? Are you from China?
Yeah. I think
Okay.
because it's a very good platform for us
Okay.
to talk about this topic. I think we can share our real opinion very freely.
Cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So, but Fang Fang, not all U.S. presidents counteract or describe China as a threat, But I think China and Obama, especially when Obama was assumed the power, and they both enjoy the win-win economic engagement, Yeah. So that is why we have like Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC. China was very satisfied with the APEC structure, and the United States during Obama administration was very satisfied with APEC as well. So, I mean, why this concept shift? Perhaps is the conflict of their interest. Or the Obama bureaucrats perceive some of the conflict of interest, but they use a different approach to deal with the problem, They still think that as we engage more with the China, the more diplomatic the Chinese government will be. But on the other hand, we have like a Republican President Donald Trump, and he used a different approach to sustain U.S. Goals. All right, but the main difference is that their mindset and their perception is different, and it really touch their mindset, and it really depends on how you perceive China. As you may know that China can be economically, China can be a opportunity. Politically, China can be a threat. It really depends on which point did you stand on, Yeah. So as I just said, I just mentioned about the APEC is a win-win economic engagement, all right? And the turn of Indo-Pacific was put forward by Hillary Clinton to double U.S. efforts in Asia Pacific. So in 2010, Hillary Clinton first used the term to describe closer Navy relations with India. We are expanding our work with the Indian Navy in the Pacific because we understand how important the Indo-Pacific basin is. This is because India is not a member of, I think what Hillary Clinton say is that we now needs to double our efforts to cooperate with India and bring India into our international region, which means like APEC. But India was excluded from APEC, and this time Hillary wants to bring India into APEC. Well, I think their long-term goal is still the same. They want to use India against China as an economic competitors. So do not trust America, no matter the Democrats or the Republicans. Their final goal is still the same. All right. So Indo-Pacific was considered as part of Obama's rebalancing strategy towards Asia. I think perhaps some of you have heard this before. All right. So another question is, Why did Obama extend from the Asia-Pacific to Indo-Pacific? Is there anyone who knows the answer or wants to join in the discussion? From Asia, okay.
Sorry. From the Asian Pacific to the Indo-Pacific, just like you mentioned, is also related to the interest of different countries. It also from the Belt and Road Initiative in the new century from China. And yes. They also want to build, geographically, America is far from Asian countries.
Yeah.
So they also need another union like the Indo-Pacific, like maybe to some degree to urge the Belt and Road Initiative.
Yes. So I think what Fang say is really to the point, and he says is because of Belt and Roads Initiative, and this area covers lots of different interests. And again, back to what I just said in last slide, and we really starting based on U.S. bureaucrats' perception, especially main key players in the governments, let's say president or U.S. Congress as well. All right. So I think this time the shift from Asia Pacific to Indo-Pacific means how to engage with emerging China under Xi Jinping administration. All right. So when Xi Jinping came to power, I think was it back to like 2016? Am I correct? 2016 or 2015? They still have like a bureaucratic debate over which approaches do we need to deal with China. Well, for Hillary Clinton, we still can engage with Chinese government in very sound APEC international regime, and we can get like a win-win situation. The more free trades we do with the Chinese government, the more diplomatic region is going to be. So this is basic question over which approaches should United States take in terms of this kind of China rising issue, you know. So this is because United States consider China as a threat during Donald Trump administration, which is different from Obama administration. All right, for Obama, China can be like a strategic partner. All right, they can have a win-win win-win situation. So, but for Trump, the expansion of the Asia Pacific is really important because the United States will expand its influence and to counteract the Belt and Road Initiative. All right. So the John Kerry.
Let me just interrupt.
Yes.
Apart from Fang, does anyone know anything about Belt and Road Initiative? Probably you can join discussion. Belt and Road Initiative. All right.
No one knows.
I think sorry for interrupt. Yeah. I think my friends may know some basic knowledge about Belt and Road Initiative because last year I made a presentation about Belt and Road Initiative. Maybe they need some time to digest this thing. Yeah.
To recall that. Okay.
Recall. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Okay. So now we can talk about the John Kerry, who was the Secretary of State. Why I talk about John Kerry? Because he is the person who put forward Indo-Pacific Economic Corridor, all right, abbreviated as IPEC, to promote stability and prosperity of South and Southeast Asian economics. economies at the U.S. India Strategic Dialogue in June 2013. So, well, before we started this session, I had a discussion with Professor Dhiyathad, and we talked about which is larger, Indo-Pacific or Asia-Pacific. All right. Actually, my answer to his question was Indo-Pacific is larger. Actually, it's larger, and I have the some of arguments from the scholar. Let me read his arguments. All right. So it's one of scholars in India and Professor Mahapotra. Then he highlight the fact that Asia Pacific is subsumed under Indo-Pacific, and Indo-Pacific is in fact much larger than Asia Pacific, because the Chinese government's operation against the turn for political reasons. Indo-Pacific is actually very relevant, crucial for China, and since most of energy resources and raw materials traverse the Indian Ocean and in order to reach China, what he said is actually, let's have a look at this graph. What he said is, if we talk about Indo-Pacific, all right, it starting from like United States to Korea and to India, all right, and it can extend further to the eastern coast of Africa, all right. So if we talk about Asia Pacific, probably just cover this area, you know, right? This area, Russia, China, and some ASEAN countries and Australia, and back to the United States. But this time, starting from the United States, from Pacific Oceans to Indian Oceans, all right? So it's covers 2 oceans. That is why Indo-Pacific strategy is larger than the Asia-Pacific strategy in terms of geopolitical consideration, all right? Okay, so let's have a look. What I want to say in this strategic graph is that we see like the sphere of influence based on the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy. Have a look from United States, traveling from United States through Korea to India. This is the first line. Second line, United States, Australia, and back to India. And here is an overlapping area, all right? So if China really wants to ensure its sea lines of communication means like this, all right? All right, to put their Belt and Road Initiative to Central Asia, it needs to, you know, break the structure of the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy. All right, this seems like a strategic protection from the United States. All right, so let's say if Chinese wants to promote their initiative, the first line, they need to break Taiwan Strait, and next one, they need to go to Southeast China Sea, and this is lots of. In Southeast China seas, and there are lots of sovereign issues and Chinese government having with the United States. So this can be considered as United States counteracting methods against Chinese government, you know. And if Chinese government can satisfy with the neighboring countries based on Belt and Road Initiative, they may go further to Malacca Strait, all right? But in Malacca Strait, the United States is having a very strong ally, Singapore, all right? So this is the so-called like, how can I say, maritime choke, maritime choke point, all right? Maritime choke point is naturally narrow canals of shipping having with like high traffic volumes. So in Asia, we have Malacca Strait, and in here, Panama Canal, all right, is here, all right, Panama Canal. So this is called like maritime choke point, all right. So if they can pass through or bypass this, and I think it signals the success of Belt and Road Initiative. Otherwise, they have only one strategic route to send Asia and to European countries. So this is the only route, and the other they need to enhance the sea lines of communication. All right, does that make sense? All right. So let's talk about how Obama administration exercised multilateral reason to strengthen trade relations with U.S. allies. All right. So they basically Obama used like the so-called TPP and Trans-Pacific Partnership, and it was based on multilateral economic framework against any kind of unilateral, bilateral project. All right. So because for Obama administration, this is the best efforts to deal with the Chinese government. But unfortunately, after Donald Trump officially assumed the power, 2 days after he assumed the power, he withdrew from TPP. He didn't think like a TPP is a feasible approach to deal with Chinese government. All right. So here, when Trump officially assumed the power, and he moved from multilateral reason to bilateral reason or minilateral reason, right? So in other words, Trump bucked the trend, emphasizing bilateral reason and minilateral reason, with the latter only working with specific countries on narrow interests. So as I just said, is there anyone who knows the meaning of minilateral reason? Lisa, I don't want to call Fang because Fang answered two questions. So Professor Dhiyathad, can you name some of your students?
Yeah, may I just encourage the students who are enrolled in this course to take part in this conversation?
I bet I promise.
Minilateralism, okay?
Yeah. Can I answer?
Yes, please.
It's like
welcome.
A formal group when just as a small country gather together, like the AUKUS group.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So may I have your name, please?
Sharisa.
Sharisa. So Sharisa, next time when I visit Bangkok, and I'll definitely buy you a cup of coffee, Starbucks. All right.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So due to the limitation of traveling ban, so perhaps I cannot go there. Yeah. So well, what she said was almost correct. Minilateral reason is just focusing with specific countries on naval issues or interests. Let's go back to this PPT. All right, bilateral reason means United States towards Japan, and then we finish. All right, multilateral reason can be like a trilateral, all right, or quadrilateral. So this one, the U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy during the Trump administration is really based on sometimes bilateral reason. All right, and sometimes maybe larger concept than this. So this is called multilateral reason, all right, from the United States to Japan and to India and back to Australia and back to the United States, right? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Okay. So Donald Trump bucked the trend and he withdrew from TPP. He said that U.S. allies are free riders, which receive great support and generosity from Washington, but give nothing in return. In other words, he said unilateral international region like APEC and TPP will produce lots of free riders who do not intend to give or donate what they should. So in ABC News 2011, Donald Trump also said that it wouldn't be there if it wasn't the United States. We protect our allies. We keep those countries going and we get nothing for it. This is quoted from Donald Trump. All right. So remember that in the European Union, EU, okay, Donald Trump said he didn't want to pay any U.S. military spendings for European Union community because he said the United States has got lots of burden and paying more than it should be. All right. So this time, the United States will definitely cut off or stop multilateral reason. All right. I mean, during Trump administration. Okay. So let's do like a Q&A. What's the rationale behind Obama's multilateral reason approach? Why do Obama want to do multilateral approach? Why do Obama want to use multilateral approach? As I just mentioned, it has much to do with bureaucrats' perception. All right. So because Obama view China as a strategic partner, all right? So that is why he wants to deal with China based on multilateral approach, all right? Because this will bring a win-win engagement with China, all right? Let's go to the second question. Fang, does Trump continue Obama's Indo-Pacific strategy? Can you share your reflections or your knowledge to other participants?
I don't think Trump follow Obama's Indo-Pacific strategy.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, and in my opinion, from what Donald Trump has done in his duration, and like the trade protectionism and some other things, we can see the approach he used is maybe is a unilateralism or bilateralism.
Yes.
And I also think, in my perspective, I think he's a businessman more than a politician. He wants to maximize the interest. So that's why, yeah.
You know, in his book, The Art of Negotiation, is written by Donald Trump before he formally became U.S. president. He said the strength in international politics is the leverage of negotiation. All right, so he is the person who really likes to negotiate between 2 or 3 countries. All right, let's say we just define our interest among 3 people. We ignore the rest of them. We discuss our main interests. All right, and this is almost the same if we really look at Taiwan Strait, cross strait issues between Taiwan and China. And if I want to use the Taiwan as a checkpoint against China, I just talk and negotiate more with the Chinese government, right? And this will make Chinese government very angry, even dissatisfactory with the with the US approach. But for Donald Trump, he thinks this is the best leverage, all right? And next time we can use like Taiwan Strait issue, use Taiwan as a chance to negotiate with the Chinese government with wider national interest issues. Like recently, we all know that the United States has a deficit, right? Trade deficit. So if the United States wants to lower its trade deficit, perhaps it will need Chinese assistance to have more private investment in the United States, or lower its, or make its renminbi, much more worthy against US dollars, okay? So what Fang Fang said is totally correct, but to what extent do you think they differ from each other? And Fang Fang also answered this question, but I also want to add more on this question. Asia Pacific was placed actually in the age of globalization and economic interdependence in the region. And the principal organization expression at the time being discussed is, APEC. But TPP is, involved 2 presidents, but Donald Trump withdrew the TPP 2 days after he formally became president. But in contrast, we have Indo-Pacific, and it was epitomized by the age of geopolitical and geoeconomic dynamics that were closely linked to the rise of China, and the principal institutional expression in this case is Quad. Do you know Quad? From the United States and India, Australia, and Japan. The 4 countries, consist military dialogue, and it is called Quad, quadrilateral approach. All right.
Can I add some comment?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm right. Actually, in my understanding, I think, like you mentioned, Obama's approach is a win-win engagement. In my opinion, I think Donald Trump is, I think he used the perspective of a businessman. He thinks the whole world is a zero game.
Zero game, yes, zero game. Yes,
yeah.
Zero game. I mean, it is like a zero-sum game. Yeah, zero-sum game. What does that mean by zero-sum game? It means that even I win or you die. This is zero-sum game. There is no win-win situation. We cannot coexistence with each other, all right? Even I'm the dominant power, or you are the dominant power. Please choose only one. There is only one, all right? So what Fang Fang said is correct. Yeah, almost correct. Not almost, totally correct. Yeah, it's correct. All right.
Right.
So, but when we look at Indo-Pacific in the GeoStrategic Close, explore this concept deeper. And why do they seek a free and open Indo-Pacific? Fang already answered this question. I think this is the main thing of our special lecture as well. It's because of the threat of China, all right? So the Rex Tillerson said at the CSIS 2017 that the United States and India, with our shared goals of peace, security, freedom of navigation, and a free and open architect, must serve as the eastern and western beacons of the Indo-Pacific. So this time, what he said is try to, tighten the bilateral relations. All right. So it's almost the same during the Trump administration, and the NSAs argued that China seeks to displace the United States in the Indo-Pacific region. All right. So what we just said at the very first, it really depends on how key U.S. bureaucrats define their relation with the Chinese government. All right. Do they seek like a win-win engagement approach with the Chinese government, or do they think Chinese with the United States will only bring like a zero-sum game? All right, so this is really important. So during the Trump administration, I just mentioned, they emphasize like a quadrilateral or bilateral, quadrilateral, Australia, India, Japan. I mentioned this before. All right, let's move to next slide. So using this time for Donald Trump, he tries to use India to counteract the expanding influence of China. All right, but he still used like a bilateral. All right, let's say or quadrilateral. Let's say why he wants to use this, and compare with the Obama. What's the difference? But Hillary Clinton mentioned about Indo-Pacific discourse, but what she really wants is to bring India into APEC, right, or TPP, right? But Donald Trump, no, we don't want to do that. Let's see how Donald Trump wants to do with this. Let's have a look. This one, all right. What does this document say about China? Can you guys see the declassified documents?
Yes.
Yeah. See, for Donald Trump, what he said is that the relations between China and the United States has started the so-called like strategic competition. All right. So owing to the divergent nature and goals of our political and economic systems, China will circumvent international rules and norms and to gain advantage. All right. And here, what United States say about India is that a strong India in cooperation with like-minded countries would act as a counterbalance to China. See, here, Chinese is depicted as enemy. This one, India is described as a
Ally.
partner, ally, but based on multilateral, not multi, sorry, bilateral and multilateral approach. All right. Let's have a look. What did Donald Trump say about India when he first go to India and visit India country? He said American like India. Let's have a look. Can you guys hear the sound from your side?
Can you play it now?
Yeah,
No.
I'm playing now.
I think there is no voice.
No voice. Okay, let me.
You need to share the screen.
Yeah.
No voice. No
voice.
No audio. Yeah.
Let me adjust it. I don't think it will be a that.
I think probably
Okay.
you need to share the screen and then yeah.
Yeah, share screen.
India.
Yes.
America loves India. America respects India. And America will always be faithful and loyal friends to the Indian people.
Okay, I stop here. I won't, spend too much time playing this Trump's clip. All right. So I just want to let you guys know Trump wants to expand bilateral relations with India. All right. Let's go. Let's go back to our slide. Continue our special lecture today. Can you see my slide now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Probably now you can say it.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. I think
Can you do me
where
the slide?
were we? We are here. We were here. Sorry.
Right.
We were here. Yeah.
Okay.
So based on the previous declassified documents, all right. Now, the United States consider China as a strategic competitor, all right. But this is during during Trump administration. But is there any other people who have the different point of view with the Donald Trump, but they still think strategic competition is possible in Democrats? Yes, indeed, we have in 2019 Sullivan and Jack and Kurt. All right, they indicate the year of engagement with China has come to an unceremonious close. All right, and actually, Jack was a policy planner, during Obama administration. Although he was a Democrat, but his stand on Chinese government was a bit pro hoc. All right, pro hoc. So that means that we can have like a coexistence with Chinese government. And the article he contributed to Foreign Affairs is called Competition Without Catastrophe. This is really famous. how American use both how American can both challenge and coexist with China. All right. It means that Jack's philosophy is to enhance various approach against the rise of Chinese government. All right. But the nature of this is because we all recognize our relations with China is really clear. Now, China is our strategic competitor, no matter you are diplomats. Also, no matter you are Republican or Democrats, we all consider Chinese government as a strategic competitor, all right? So coexistence means the United States needs to compete with the China and also cooperate with China, all right? So the documents say that the Jack Sullivan, what he said in this document is that the United States must have a very clear goal and clear approach to achieve their foreign policy, all right? So it can be like a multilateral and bilateral or multilateral, but it really depends on which approaches will bring the maximizing benefits, all right? So for Jack Sullivan, either competition or cooperation is one of the conditions to be managed, all right? So, but for Donald Trump, in Jack's philosophy, he doesn't think Trump can manage all the conditions, all right? Sometimes he thinks Donald Trump has gone too far, all right, has gone too far, but the condition won't be able to manage Donald Trump, all right? So it needs to be like the condition to be managed rather than a problem to be solved, all right? So this means that the U.S. role, let me give you an example in Taiwan Strait issue. Can you imagine that the United States fight against the Taiwanese people against China? No, impossible. It will need to create conditions for the United States to manage, all right? It's not for the United States' responsibility to solve a problem, all right? The United States doesn't want to solve a problem, right? And Sullivan's mindset will set the basic principles for Joe Biden administration because now he is a NAC advisor. So the basic principle is competition, cooperation, and confrontation. All right. So what time is it now? 25 past 11. So if you don't mind, can we just stop here for a 10 minutes break and I will come back to you and rejoin you guys, I think at 35 past 11. All right. And we can continue the rest of special lecture. All right.
Okay. So
cool.
For dear participant, please stay tuned. Okay.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Be
Thank
back.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
See you.
A bit thirsty. We are a bit thirsty.
Sorry?
I said a bit thirsty. Thirsty.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We have some of the alumni from this program joining our session as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So are they alumni from NIDA?
Sorry?
Graduate, are they alumni from NIDA?
NIDA, right?
Oh, okay, okay. Same
Yeah.
program, public and development.
Public administration.
Oh,
Yes.
administration.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And the at the end of the session, if anyone can turn on camera, that would be great because we will have a screenshot, a group photo together. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool, cool.
While we are waiting for the participant to get back to the to the lecture, I think the approach during the Trump administration towards Brexit, I think it's about the same. Like
it's the same. That what I said.
Yeah, it's the same. Like getting Brexit done by having close relationship with the conservative Boris Johnson, and then
Boris
it
Johnson.
seems like Boris Johnson. It seems like using the kind of the same approach, having India as ally as well.
India ally, yeah. Hey, you know the United Kingdom, they ask to join CTPTT, yeah, in this year, you know. So
Yes.
I think the next time perhaps Joe Biden will use like their fun allies from the Europe. Oh no, not Europe. British people, all right, British government. They are not, they don't believe to UN anymore. British government against the rise of Chinese government, all right.
I think they are from the same bench. Like you can see from the US, you can see like the Brazil, Bolsonaro, the president, or the India prime minister, UK. So I think they are the same people are on the same at the same time together to play like international politics, where they disregarding their publics. You can see like the how they handle this.
Yeah, using the Western term to describe this, most of the supporters of these leaders are kind of the anti-establishment.
NDS.
Yeah, and
NDS.
anti kind of like the liberal world. This is
liberal.
the terms using in the West, right?
Yeah.
Right, Kay, you agree?
Yeah, agree. Totally agree. Yeah. All right.
So perhaps we can, carry on.
Yeah, we can continue and carry on. So now can you guys see my screen? Yeah.
Later, I would like to have to ask a question about your first section.
Yeah,
like
okay.
About the reason why the India is very important. I think is about the digital development. Like as we know, India is the big provider of IT and digital service to US. And also the value partner of China in digital Belt Road. So do the recently partnership between India and US is the presentation of coexist like the cooperation as well as the competition. But the data governance is very important. If the US connect with India and China connect with India at the same time, so how about the risk from the data governance, for example? Because when I work for the US company, there is some scandal about the data loss from the US military, and the hacker are the Chinese. So there is something about the digital development, and when two countries are connected with India, how about they protect their security in terms of digital development? I just want to ask about it.
Well, I think the main question you are really asking is what India's response is going to be if the United States and China is approaching to cooperate with India, right? So basically, generally speaking, I think what the India can do is to get more of the benefits, to maximize the economic cooperation with the both countries. But remember that if the India government get too much benefits based on free trade arrangements or other bilateral mechanism, well, I don't think these kind of relations will last very long, even with China. All right. So what the India government can do is to work closer with Central Asia countries, even African countries. Yeah, that will do. Geographically speaking, I think what they will do is really move left side on the map rather than right side. All right, right side, geographically speaking, you have big enemy, China, and even like the U.S. Indo-Pacific narrative. All right, what if think about that? What if they put India into CPTPP? Then if they have very good leverage to get very good tariffs at very first, but later will this barrier be really reduced favorable to India? It is still remain to be seen. Yeah. What do you think? What do you say? This is my question.
May I just interrupt that? Katie's asking about this make me kind of like remind me of a concept about, I think 10 to 15 years ago when people were talking about Shindia, like China and India joining together as a emerging economic powerhouse. And then later on, we have India leaning towards the left of the world map, right? That's kind of funny stuff.
Yeah, but I think the real competition is between India and China as well as the United States. Is like a three big. Like I cannot like say like a three dominant power, three big powers. All right, in China, there's a very famous IT company, Huawei. It's building its networks, and through Belt and Road Initiative, some kind of basic infrastructures, yeah, like a smart city, you know, something like IT gadgets, you know,
Yeah.
they belong to Huawei's. The owner of the basic IT network is owned by Huawei. Well, if you were a private investor, you want to invest some of governmental project in Central Asia or some of let's say Laos or some Asia countries, probably you will have a question: am I really, you know, invest a private entity? Actually, you invest into like a Chinese owned like
a state-owned enterprise of China.
Yeah, like a company owned by Chinese company. Yeah, Chinese government, not Chinese company. Chinese government. All right.
Yeah.
So this is their main concern. I mean, this is their main concern. Yeah. So I don't see that will come to our relations. I mean, trilateral relations soon, because they are still just at initial age of strategic competition. Perhaps later they will have like a broader cooperation with each other, you know, like let's say in terms of IT gadgets. Yeah, they will have. Yeah, this is my answer. Yeah.
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 Right. Thank you.
Okay, let's carry on today's spatial lecture. So let's look at this PowerPoint, and we see the comparison between bilateral beliefs in construction of foreign policy discourse. But before we begin, I want to ask you guys a question. To what extent do you think that the U.S. foreign policy is driven by ideological impulses? This is the question I would like to ask. And if you guys are really interested and you know some of superficial knowledge about bipartisan beliefs, you can just type your ideas in chat box or put on your microphone, speak out.
Could you please repeat your question?
To what extent do you think the U.S. foreign policy is driven by ideological impulses? Ideological.
You mean the ideological, right?
Yeah, ideological impulses. Well, I think when we live in this world, and every decision we are going to make, perhaps we are partly over for some people, perhaps is wholly based on ideological impulses. So when did you get your ideological impulse? I mean, ideological impulse. Perhaps when you born in your family, or when you receive your schooling at school, right? So you receive a different kind of ideological information from the government, or from your parents, or from your friends as well, and from your personal political belief. All right. So think about yourself, and when you make your own decision, and try to be very objective. And when you buy something, will you compare the price to do the shopping, which is cheaper? It is reasonable, right? Perhaps your parents told you this is very wise to spend the money when you do the shopping. You need to pick up the cheapest one, right? So the basic question is, to what extent do you think that the U.S. foreign policy is driven by ideological impulses? Why do you need to? Why? Let me ask you a very simple question. Why do you need to pursue your master's degree in Thailand? Fang.
Yeah. Actually, I have about 5 years working experience after graduation in Thailand and also in Pakistan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pakistan 1 year, and in the Confucius Institute, and also manage the HSK. You may know that the HSK test. Yeah, and I think for me, I'm quite open-minded with different things, because I used to work with people from different country, different culture and religions. So I also want to take something new. Even the public administration is totally different from my previous experience. Yeah.
So Fang, did anyone give you some advice for your advanced degree? And someone say, oh, doing your master's degree in Thailand perhaps will boost up your future career, something like that.
Nobody gave me any advice. I can make my own decision myself since maybe high school.
School.
Yeah.
You're quite independent. So, but
yeah.
The way you talk is that you receive very like a liberal approach, right? Yeah, during your high school, right? During your high school, and you perhaps you can make your own decision. But before you made your own decision, and what kind of information you are going to get before you make your decision?
I think from the knowledge from my parents.
From their parents.
And also from the TV. The
TV. Yes. Yes, that's correct. That's back to our main subject. So the comparison between bipartisan belief in the construction of foreign policy discourse. Let's view foreign policy as a foreign policy decision. All right. So in the United States, perhaps you have already known that there are two main parties. One is Republican, the other is Democrats. So when Donald Trump make his own foreign policy decision, and for IR scholars, what some of them really wants to know, is there any linkage between Republican beliefs and his foreign policy construction? And some IR scholars can confirm this. All right. So let's say for a traditional Republican, and their foreign policy ends is always security. But what kind of methods are they going to, Republican presidents are they going to use to achieve their ends? Ends means goal. They think international system is chaotic. Okay, so the best way to deal with our foreign policy is to use balance of power and power operation. All right. So the belief is that it's always tied very close to IR realism, and the word is chaotic, okay, anarchic. All right. So this is Republicans' traditional belief. Let's talk about Democrats' traditional belief. So their foreign policy ends is to bring prosperity, especially economic prosperity. So their method to achieve this economic prosperity is to emphasize international norms and using international regions, organizations, all right, to strengthen interdependence with other countries. So what kind of benefits can this bring? This method bring? Of course, it's based on their proposition, liberal approach, mutual benefits of international cooperation. All right. So in this case, you can see Donald Trump is Republican. So when he make his or when he interpret the Indo-Pacific discourse, there is a tinge of Republican belief in the conduct of his foreign policy. In other words, the Republican belief serve as an underlying influence. All right, underlying influence in the conduct of foreign policy. All right, so let's move to find what.
But at the end of the day, my view is they are, like I have told you before, Terry, two cheeks of the same backside.
Two cheeks, yeah, after the cheek side, yeah. Yeah, I agree. But basically, we still need to have like agree, to have like the rules, to find the rules to analyze or explore the foreign policy decision. Yeah. Okay, let's continue. So let's talk about Trump. So the Trump administration, his foreign policy is really based on peace through strength. All right, and this is used by Donald Trump and can be traced back to Ronald Reagan. All right, so in Trump's inaugural address, he said like American first. This is the cornerstone of his foreign policy. So what does he really mean by peace through strength? See, here we have a picture or graph. Look at this graph. Trump said, I think you believe in these words. I think three very important words: peace through strength, right? Peace through strength. So peace through strength is also in his national strategic documents. You can just find these three words, type in these three words in any kind of his national strategic documents. You can really find it. But what does that really mean by peace through strength? It means like peace can be preserved through expansion of military capacities. All right. So looking back the time when Ronald Reagan was president, he also said peace through strength. All right. So this is not very new gadget, and Trump was not really innovative of creating very different approach compared with other U.S. president. All right. So the basic assumption of peace through strength and its characteristics. So the basic proposition of peace through strength is that U.S. allies and adversaries must perceive the U.S. as being in a position to strength internationally. If its ultimate goals of global peace and stability are to be achieved, in other words, we need to have a very strong military capabilities as the foundation to achieve the ultimate goal, which is peace. All right. So three characteristics of peace through strength can be analyzed. One is, if you really use it as a reference point to explore whether the president is using peace through strength framework, the first one is the president always complained against the previous administration's policy, putting U.S. in a vulnerable position internationally. All right. So that is exactly Trump was using at the very first. He said that Obama's foreign policy in European community was totally wrong because there are lots of free riders, all right, and the United States shouldn't pay lots of membership fee for military spending. All right. So his request was that ask other European nations to pay first or pay equally with the United States. All right, but I don't think this is possible. All right. The second one is projection of U.S. power and resolve through assertive, uncompromising nationalistic rhetoric. So nationalistic rhetoric has really close association with like egocentrism, like make American great again. All right. So doing things very uncompromising and assertive. If you don't listen to me, and I will have like a very big, very strong military capabilities. Yeah, as my best. All right. The second one is to a build up of military resources coupled with a demonstrable willingness to threaten and use forces. So in dealing with North Korea, all right, so Donald Trump also said that if the little rocket doesn't listen to us, perhaps we will use our nuclear weapons. All right, so this is almost the same with what Ronald Reagan said. All right, let's examine Ronald Reagan's and Barry Goldwater's rhetorics. Is almost the same. All right, so this one in 1960, Barry Goldwater promoted the idea in the conscience of conservative. He said, our national posture must reflect strength and conscience and purposes, as well as goodwill. We need not to be bellical, but neither should we encourage others to believe that American rights can be violated without impunity. We may not make foreign people love us. No nation has ever succeeded in that, but we can make them respect us. So the essence of peace through strength is to use military force as our best to make U.S. allies or adversaries respect us. All right. Ronald Reagan, have a look. In 1983, what he said is, we maintain the peace through our strengths. Weakness only invites aggression. All right. So this is how they perceive the whole world. All right. If they stand too soft, all right, so it will invite aggression. They must be very tough. All right. So it comes across my mind, when you work with other colleagues in a company or business, it's like some people sometimes is very proactive. I don't know whether you have these kind of colleagues in your business community. Yeah, but in my office, there are some, colleagues sometimes, or not all the time. Sometimes they are very proactive. All right, they want to deal things in a very, how can I say, aggressive way. All right. So I think this is common sense. If you bring into your personal experience, yeah, and it can be understandable. All right. Let's move to next slide. So Donald Trump's evacuation, peace through strength. Well, I just mentioned about this book. Before Donald Trump was president in 1987, all right, he wrote a book called The Art of Deal, all right, and he said the best thing you can do is to deal from strengths, and leverage is the best strength you have. So personally speaking, I totally agree with Fang Fang. Fang Fang said it's more like a businessman, but why? So from his book, Donald Trump's book, Art of the Deal, in 1987, what he said is that the best strength you have is the leverage skill. All right. So that is why he really wants to do things bilaterally or quadrilaterally or trilaterally. All right. So peace through strength is what he called the foundation of his strategic vision in national security strategy. And you can have a look at these documents. All right. And he also mentioned peace through strength in UN speech. All right. I think I need to close this, right? Close this window and play this, but not quite long. Peace through strength. UN. This is really short. All right, have a look on this video. It's less than a minute. He mentioned about peaceful strength. All right. Let's sorry.
Share the screen again.
Yeah, just screen. But I need to. Okay.
America is fulfilling our destiny.
Can you hear the song?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool.
America is fulfilling our destiny as peacemaker, but it is peace through strength. We are stronger now than ever before. Our weapons are at an advanced level like we've never had before, like frankly, we've never even thought of having before. And I only pray to God that we never have to use them. For decades, the same tired voices proposed the same failed solutions, pursuing global ambitions at the expense of their own people. But only when you take care of your own citizens will you find a true basis for cooperation.
All right. So
we withdrew from.
So he mentioned peaceful strength many times, even in his national security strategy documents. All right, peaceful strength. All right, keep this in mind. Okay. So next slide, we move to the contemporary discussion of the Indo-Pacific strategy, how most IR scholars use in this slide, we will discuss how IR scholar use the theory to interpret Indo-Pacific strategy. So the first one is very famous. Perhaps you can use this as an approach to analyze other issues, power transition, and this is put forward by Ogansky and in World Politics. All right. So the basic proposition is the international system is hierarchical. All right. There is one dominant nation sits at the top. All right, namely United States. So challenges, when do we perceive challenges? And it's on the condition that some countries are, dissatisfied with the dominant country's power, and regional hierarchies are possible. So like a RCEP, all right? This RCEP is the economic initiative put forward by China, all right? So look at this graph. So dominant power, we have the United States. The great powers, we perhaps will have China, and what else? Japan, and Singapore. Can it be great power? No, I don't think Singapore will be one of them. And United States, France, or United Kingdom, France, or other Asian, some of other big powers. But when they feel dissatisfied with the power distribution, and perhaps they will use the different kind of forms to challenge against dominant power. Let's say politically, they will have, let's say, take China as an example, all right? Use the Taiwan Strait as an example and challenge the United States. The Taiwan is part of inseparable territories. It cannot be intervened by other foreign powers. So it's suggesting the United States do not intervene the domestic issues of great power. All right. So let's move to next slide. Satisfactions and dissatisfactions in the hierarchical systems is because there is one status quo created by dominant power. All right. So their status quo is already set by the United States. All right. So some great powers are satisfied with the status quo, while others are dissatisfied. All right. So why there is the dissatisfaction? Because historical, ideological, religious, territorial, personal, or cultural factors can be one of examples to have dissatisfaction. All right. So let's say the strategic competition between the United States and China. I think they have like a misconceptual understanding between each other. Why? Especially nowadays, they think they are going to cooperate, but also compete against with each other. Is that they think Chinese, basically they think Chinese is proactive. You know, they don't think that if they have like a better IT AI skill to bring up smart cities in Eurasia countries, these will benefit the local people. They don't believe that, all right? Because basically, this will, affect the inflow of investment into the Pacific and make Western businessmen into a very less competitive stand, all right? So dissatisfied states might change the status quo or rule of the politics, all right? So now Chinese government is intended to change the status quo. From U.S. perspective, I must say this in advance. So Chinese government from U.S. perspective tends to displace the United States in the regional power, all right? So the nations that share common preferences, visions, will form stable alliances, all right? Alliances between satisfied and dissatisfied might change, all right? So in this satisfied and dissatisfied, we will have a different approach to analyze U.S. Indo-Pacific strategy, and this is called like a balance of threat. All right. So this is basically some of materials for your reference when we talk about power transition, why conflicts arise. Okay, so let's move to balance of threat. All right, so balance of threat is put forward by Stephen Walt in the Origins of Alliances in 1987. All right, so what does that mean by balance of threat? The basic proposition is states ally to balance against threats rather than against power alone. All right, so basically it depends on each state how they perceive the threat. All right, it's not by the power. So what is power transition perhaps is not the main point in balance of threat. It really depends on how they perceive the threats. All right. So here, simple question: how do states respond to threats? All right. And he said balancing is far more common than bandwagon. All right. When bandwagon occur, it is among weaker states. They are much vulnerable. What Stephen would say is that bandwagon easily happen in here, bandwagon, right? Do you guys follow my lecture?
Yes.
Yeah, it's bandwagon will happen. Yeah, happen here. Bandwagon effect happen here. All right. So in bandwagon effect, there are lots of free riders. All right, because they don't specifically bound to any ideological or shared visions or culture preferences. All right, what they want to get is benefits. All right, and they don't want to contribute any kind of money or efforts. Not, perhaps if they can, they just contribute minimum efforts to organization. All right.
I have a question, a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, please.
Yeah, like
should.
Talking about like Donald Trump, like the foreign policy and
because
it's as so far we know, like the also depend on the Democrats or Republicans, the hawk or the kind of like. So yeah, they're talking about like Ronald Reagan in like 1980s. So how about like every administration changed, the foreign policy also changed. I mean, the U.S. But for China, they have a stable because of their government style. So the question is, did Trump have a foreign policy or not? Like he's not a Republican as well. Actually, he's a businessman.
Yeah.
And he has a very bad reputation. So he came to the power. He just copy paste. So when we're talking about of the American first, yeah, he did everything, but mostly for himself rather than for the American. So when we're talking about the foreign policy, so for the U.S., I mean the Democrat, or before the Republican, they are doing they try to contaminate China actually, like they build around with the allies to contain the China influence. But Donald Trump, he just left the NATO, or I mean the TPP, everything he left. But at the same time, he wants to get, as you mentioned, like a peace through strength.
Yeah.
So do you think is there any strength? Because I don't see any strength within, because you left the UN, like climate change, you left TPP, you left everything, and you are not making a business as well. Right now, we can see like Joe Biden going to sell the Taiwan probably. How much million for to defend themselves?
You mean the military deals,
even
right?
the WHO as well, if I may say so.
Yeah. How you can define the true strength? Because you also withdraw from the Afghanistan as well. It's not really, so how do you?
This is a very interesting question and very good question. Yeah, I think as far as I know, and there is a very famous book in the United Kingdom, and it was written by one of my external examiners, and the book name is The Ordinary of Trump Administration. See what he really argues in Trump's foreign policy is that Trump is really extraordinary in its rhetoric, but it is really ordinary from Republican belief. All right. So perhaps when you say he has no foreign policy, is because when you see him as a businessman and when he doing like a political show. All right. So every time when we see Donald Trump, yeah, he is like a doing political show in the air, right? Does that make sense? But when he comes to national security strategy documents, there is a very clear reference point in the Republican, tradition, right? But this has much to do with like his personal style, all right? So when you say there's no foreign policy strategy during the Trump administration, I think we can just divide it, his rhetoric and foreign policy main objective apart, right? Does that make sense? When you remove his foreign policy rhetorics from its strategic strategy documents, then you will find, oh, this guy has a very clear goals to achieve in Indo-Pacific nations, right? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Is he really a politician with ideology, or is he a political opportunist?
well, that's how do we define like political opportunists? well, when we define political opportunists, I will say that perhaps he's the person who really wants to use the strength of leverage. This is his definition of peaceful strength, and the best strength you can have is leverage in the bilateral or trilateral or quadrilateral context. Does that make sense? And I don't think he's a really political ideologist, all right? Because this kind of strategic security documents is written by his staff rather than Donald Trump himself, right? So we have like a MSC advisor, some Secretary of States, and their responsibility is to help Trump to conceptualize the main goals and methods in strategic security reports, right? So for Trump himself, he's just like showing lots of what he have achieved in his foreign policy in the air, all right? But when we remove his foreign policy rhetorics, I think they do have foreign policy strategy. But when you say how much ideological impulses account for how much percentage did ideological belief count in the context of foreign policy, I can only say 50-50%. So that is why I say ideological belief serve as an underlying influence, underlying influence, yeah, in the context of foreign policy. Okay.
May I add some comment? I think for the Trump's peace through strength, it reminds me of the blood and iron from the Bismarck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think even the blood and iron it was much more aggressive than the peace through the strength, but to some degree they shared the same value, I think.
In value, you mean this? In value.
I think to some degree they shared the same value.
Oh, same value. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, agree. But the question is that when Trump invoked peaceful strength, and the enemy this time is China, not not Reagan's Soviet Union, you know. So I think China is stronger than Soviet Union. What do you think? What do you say about that? In terms of like IT strategy and it's bilateral or trilateral, or like China has like a RCEP. I just mentioned this RCEP, right? RCEP, yeah, RCEP against of CPTPP. In other words, China is now the main main economic arrangement organizer in this framework, right? So it means that I don't see like during Ronald Reagan's administration, Soviet Union could have achieved lots of bilateral relations by building up local infrastructures in Central Asia, right? But now, see, you can. I had a very short discussion with Professor Dhiyathad on One Belt and Road Initiative. Now, Chinese businessmen can export their goods to Bangkok through railway, right? Does that you may have heard that railway, but for Thailand, when they're going to sell their fruit to China, but Chinese government say due to the rise of COVID-19, we cannot import your fruit, you know. Yeah, so the main question here and the main concern here this time, we need to really focus whether there is very distributes, you know, economic distributes between two countries is the main issue we need to really focus on, right? Does that make sense? Yeah. So I think the wrong analogy Donald Trump really made is he thought now China is a paper tiger. Does that make sense? Paper tiger. You think China is paper tiger now? No. If you really do some research, yeah, Soviet Union cannot compare to China. I said to you guys, the Chinese government built a lot of infrastructures and export a lot of IT technologies to its neighboring countries, right? So this is totally different from the Cold War period, right? And this, I think, involves very complex issues. When the Chinese government had the contract condition and some of sovereignties, especially economic sovereignties in Laos or some of East Asia countries. How can the local government against of Chinese government? In other words, in Donald Trump's mentality, perhaps this time, the Chinese government has a lot of negotiating leverage over its neighboring countries. Yeah. Right. So let's move to the relationship between balance of power and threat. And the structural realism, its arguments is based on based on international system, and it is formed by balance of power. I think you guys have all known this, but although the distribution of power is a crucial factor, the level of threat is also affected by aggregated power and offensive capabilities, perceived offensive intentions, and geographically proximities. All right. So it has much to do with how they perceive the level of threat. All right. So U.S. economic initiative versus Chinese economic initiative. See, India, like an orphan, you know, is still outside of the circle. I don't know whether in CPTPP and in APEC, still outside here, right? But it has a lot of, I mean, political and economic leverage for both countries, China and United States.
Sorry for interruption. May I say something? I think, sorry for interruption. I want to talk about some about India. I used to stay in Pakistan 1 year. I think I kind of know their characteristics.
Okay, please.
Yeah, you know why some unions or some countries they don't want to have like the cooperation with or some business cooperation with India. I think because of the characteristics. If you know the businessman, they have business with people in Pakistan or in India. Normally, they always overpromise, and that's their characteristics. They always overpromise, and they also bargain. Yeah, overpromise, and they also like bargain with you. For example, if the price is $2, for example, is $2, they will bargain with you $1.5. And when you see when you see their bargain with you, you will think, oh, maybe it's a great order, it's a big order. But finally, they just order a little bit. You know, right? In doing this business, or I don't know the political issues, but I know the business stuffs. They want to minimize their cost, and they want to maximize their profit.
Maximize profit. Yeah, makes sense.
But you know, and for people in Pakistan and India, they are also I think they are overconfident.
Overconfident.
They think they are very smart, but nobody is stupid. That's also the biggest problem.
Nobody is stupid.
Yeah, they think they are smarter than others. This is also the
That's contribute my my argument. No wonder why India is out of RCEP and CPTPP, because India is outsider. Does that make sense? Yeah, outsider.
No, but,
okay.
I added something. As far as I understand, I think the Indian government chose to back off from the RCEP initiative. The RCEP.
Yeah, RCEP.
Because normally the main negotiator of this could be like ASEAN and China, and then India, because we have like the ASEAN plus, you know, like plus 3, plus 6, plus 8, stuff like that. But not remember what are the reasons that they chose to back off from the RCEP, but India have decided that.
But why do they against RCEP? Are they like competing with the Chinese government, or what's the main issue? IT competition or something?
Not really sure about that, to be honest. Not really sure about that, but just get some information about this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, dig into and explore this issue further, because I'm not so very familiar about the role of India in RCEP context. Well, explore this issue further, and once I have some of results, and I will let Professor Dhiyathad know, and we can have another special lecture next time. All right. I hope it won't scare you. All right. So let's go to Q&A session. What's the essence of strategic competition? I think some of you have already know this. All right. Here, bigger. Okay. what's the essence of strategic competition? All right. So, Fang, do you know the answer?
I think for me, the strategic competition is the balance of power and threat as well as threat. In the previous slide, you mentioned like the different, like the republic, or no matter for the domestic issues or the international issues, we need to, if we like the republic, if we want to the security, we need to make, we are trying to make the balance among different countries or different parties. If we want to prosperity, we need to make the rules, make the norm or regulations.
Yeah.
This is a strategic competition, no matter in the domestic or international issues.
Yeah, but the question is, your answer, I mean, leads to the next question. Can strategic competition be avoidable?
No.
Yeah. Can strategic competition be avoidable? If your answer is no, perhaps you are very friendly with Jack Sullivan. All right. He now thinks that strategic competition cannot be avoidable. So the United States needs to learn how to cooperate and, cooperate and what else? Coexist with China, So the United States must have a very clear approach to achieve clear goals. So in other words, what he said is Donald Trump doesn't have very clear approach and goals, Yeah, I think that strategic competition, is unavoidable. I don't know if other people think it's still available. Perhaps based on Sullivan's mindset, on the condition that all of international regions and bilateral or unilateral or trilateral relations can be managed into conditions. It can be available. All right.
Sorry. I think it's the strategic competition is not always a bad thing.
Yeah.
We need to. It also depends on the situation. If we can make it a virtuous circle, I mean the strategic
circle. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the strategic competition is good because it can improve and update all the countries.
Yeah, I think the competition is good, but Sullivan said that if we don't have a clear goal and clear approach, it will lead to like a circle of confrontation. Circle of confrontation. Yeah, I think what you say is really clear and totally right. Yeah, totally right. Yeah, I agree with that. So, but the thing is, we still need to see how Joe Biden's Indo-Pacific strategy is going to be, and that leads to the next question you see here. All right, what is the Biden's Indo-Pacific strategy? And let me answer this question myself, because I think since Jack Sullivan is now MSC supervisor of Joe Biden, I think Joe Biden's Indo-Pacific strategy will just follow his guidance. And what his guidance is cooperation and competition and confrontation. Yeah, it's a three basic guidance in developing Joe Biden's Indo-Pacific strategy. All right.
Sorry for interruption. Yeah. Like during the Obama became to be the president, so Obama is very like ambitious for the foreign policy.
Mature, yeah.
So they put Joe Biden's.
Yeah.
For the foreign policy. So now I mean to handling about the foreign policy. So now when Joe Biden is himself the president,
yeah,
used to work with as an advisor or the leading during the Obama administration. So yeah, he may take some. I don't think that is, because we can see he already follows some footstep of the Donald Trump as well. So it's
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, but the key figure in both administration, I mean Obama administration and Joe Biden administration, is Sullivan. Yeah, true, Jack Sullivan. You can Google. He wrote lots of like foreign policy comments. Yeah, during the Obama administration, Sullivan was like a foreign policy planning, planning something, planning advisor something. Yeah, and working very closely with Joe Biden. Yeah, and Joe Biden was vice president during Obama administration, right? So now, since Obama has not retired, just stepped down, and Joe Biden now is the president, I think Joe Biden, called back Obama's cabinet, Jack Sullivan, again, to be his like NAC advisor, something, you know. So I think what he will follow is the main strength will totally, not totally, main strength will be almost the same with Obama's administration foreign policy construction, with slight adjustment. All right, so it really depends on how Sullivan's strategic mindset is going to be. And nowadays, what we have is like his articles in foreign affairs, like this one. I just show you guys Sullivan's article, and you can have a read on his article, Foreign Affairs, Competition Without Catastrophe. And this is really interesting article. When you want to do research, please do read his articles, all right? And say either competition and cooperation is one of conditions to be managed. So as long as the situation can be managed, we can cooperate, all right? So rather than a problem to solve. So American role, as I just said, American role in Taiwan Strait is not to solve your problem. It's not to make Taiwan to be an independent country, all right? We just want to make a condition to be managed. So who's going to manage? Bear in mind, United States is going to manage, all right? So we don't spend lots of time, distributing whether Taiwan is going to fight against China or not. We should, cooperate with each other and maximize the economic benefits and minimize political threats. Does that make sense? So let's move to this. This is the, okay, this can be like a reference for, may I have your name, please? The gentleman just said to K, yeah. This can be like a case reference to see whether Trump has his foreign policy or not. All right, this is the document link. All right, we can you see this?
Yes.
Yeah, the latest one issued in 2019. So I think, Donald Trump just summarized all of the strategic report and cite his name here. All right. So you see, like Donald Trump really have a good understanding of strategy, and this is totally different from different from his political rhetoric, in the show. All right. But the thing is, do you think it is made by Donald Trump? I don't think so. It's from his cabinet. All right. Yeah. He said like.
May I have a question?
Yeah, please.
Like, instead of the Vietnamese citizens always like looking for the way that Vietnamese government make friends with China or US, then they also know that when we are friends with China, we have the benefits and advantages in the economic, also digital development. But we have the conflicts in the SRC, And the Joe Biden strategy, I remember that they have the strategy for protect the rights for the SC from the Asian country to conflict with China. Yeah, with the conflict in the sea like the SC. So there is question that Vietnam is the friend with US to compete with China in protect our sea boundary or not, something like that. So I think that the new strategy for the Joe Biden in the Indo-Pacific as well as the fighting the Belarus China is also about in the sea problem. Like they focus on the supporting the seas problem from like the Vietnam and the China or the other countries from the Asian.
Are you saying the Southeast Asia Sea?
South China Sea.
Southeast China Sea.
South China Sea, right?
South China Sea. Yeah, South China Sea. So I think the main issue from South China Sea is the economic sovereignty issue. You see, so when you say like an economic sovereignty issue for what Chinese government, what they really want from South China Sea is that they want to continue the sea lines of communications, right? So they must gain economic sovereignty over sea line to ensure they have a sea line of communications, right? But for Vietnamese people, will that be so easy if you don't give me some benefits? Can I just let you guys just pass through South China Sea really very easily and go to Malacca Strait? No, impossible. That's not international politics. All right. The international politics is always like intrigues and benefits and opportunities. All right. Yeah. So thank you for your comments. It's really good. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So this Indo-Pacific Strategy report, and yeah, we can have a look, and it said that the U.S. Foreign policy, especially Indo-Pacific strategy during Trump's administration in 2009, is based on three principles: preparedness, partnerships, and promotion of network region. Okay, this is three guidelines, three principles of Donald Trump's Indo-Pacific strategy report. All right. So let's move to next slide. So we are almost coming to the conclusion of our today's special lecture. So I don't know how many of you guys know Graham T. Allison, and Graham T. Allison said the relationship between China and the United States is Thucydides' trap. Have you? I mean, is there anyone who heard this before? Thucydides' trap, put forward by Graham Allison. He said it was the rise of Athens and the fear that this installed in Sparta that make war inevitable. In other words, it is because of Chinese threat that make Spartan to launch the war against Athens. All right. So if you guys really interested in this, you can have a look. Thucydides' trap, put forward by Graham T. Allison. You can Google it. And when you guys trying to build up your own arguments, write your NIDA journal, all right? Put this in and cite this reference, all right? This is really useful, yeah. Thucydides' trap, put forward from Graham T. Allison. All right, so developed because of China threat, so the Indo-Pacific strategy is become like a more strategic competition than Obama administration. So let's have a look at the perception of the China threat. Why this happened? as I just mentioned, it comes from ideological differences, cultural misunderstanding, geostrategic interests in Indo-Pacific area. And this one here, perhaps what you can put is, you can put like a Huawei, you know, Huawei's 5G, like Huawei and its 5G platform have become problematic for the United States, with countries that had previously accepted Huawei 5G as part of their network, now replacing with like Ericsson or some of other alternative. So why I said this, Huawei will be like a very problematic for the United States, because the United States use like do you know, like information security? They created like an information security issue to challenge the Chinese Huawei in technology. Does that make sense? And when the United States wants to bring the different issue challenge.
The point about cybersecurity, right?
Cybersecurity, yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you for your comments. Yes, cybersecurity issue. But on the other hand, I want to add more. The human rights issue is one of the context they create to challenge against Chinese government. It's quite a human rights issue, right? So
many ASEAN countries just follow the big brother's footstep by enacting the cybersecurity law. Singapore,
law.
Thailand,
Vietnam. No, you need to follow their law. Yeah. So, well,
I want to
complex issue.
Sorry, I want to add some comment about the Huawei's case. As you know, Meng Wanzhou already go back to China now, and this is also a very famous case in the international world. I have to say, we don't have to talk about like the cybersecurity human rights. Even there is no issues related to cybersecurity or human rights. And I think American government also will urge the development of Huawei. And we can see the case of Alstom in French and Toshiba Corporation in Japan. They use the same strategy to urge, right? And now it's turned to Huawei.
Yeah.
Good, so I think for the American government, as you mentioned, we also need to look at the ideology and the culture and the. I mean, even the new President Joe Biden, even maybe they will change the strategy about China, but their core value will never change.
Yeah.
They still want to do the dominate the position. They still want to. Yeah, they still want to keep their #1 position in the world. Yeah, so that's why the Huawei case happened. Like the Alstom, like the Toshiba. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, agree. I can't agree with you more. Yeah, totally correct. Yeah, true. Yeah. So, I think Fang said add a very constructive viewpoints to what I have just said, and it's really useful. And now, let's move to ASEAN's role as a hinge of two oceans and in the Indo-Pacific strategy context. So, what do you guys think the role of ASEAN can play in the Indo-Pacific strategy discourse?
I think it's related to the shipping and the marine security. Because all modern countries are, Yeah, they are negotiation and the marine security. For example, in Vietnam, we are dealing with Laos or the other country to have the separate in the marine security and the shipping. So I think that the Chinese influence and also the U.S. influence can be affected the security in the marine and shipping, because this is like the kind of the good tool for the economic sector, and it's very key important in the economic development too. So I think that it is very important for the marine security and shipping problem in the Asian country.
Asian, yeah, good. But well, I think most of Asian countries can do is really to maximize the economic cooperation, but minimize the bipolar conflicts. You know, this is what I added in my PowerPoint. Since I just show you guys most of Asian countries are at the button you hear, all right? So what we really want to do is to, here, maximize the economic cooperation, yeah, but minimize bipolar conflicts. Don't get involved in bipolar conflicts. So it comes across to my mind, when I wrote my PhD thesis, I wrote the Cold War historiography and two bipolar systems. Yeah, and I still remember the Bandung. Is that called Bandung Conference? Yeah, in Indonesia, Bandung Conference. Yeah, in Indonesia. All right, all of the Southeast Asian countries came together to emphasize neutrality. You see. So for Asian countries, I think keeping neutral by emphasizing neutrality is really good. It's the best strategy. So Asian, you see the overlapping area here, right? Overlapping here. This is the U.S. Indo-Pacific Strategy, right? And this is Belt and Road Initiative. But Asian is, put in the middle. So it can be like a hinge between two oceans, but it must keep the diplomacy of neutrality. It will be very good to ASEAN as an organization. All right. So basically, this is the end of my special lecture today. So thank you for your attention. All right. And again, I need to say thank you for Professor Dhiyathad for his invitation, and biggest thank you to NIDA to give me this opportunity to do special lecture. All right.
Okay.
Just
I would like to encourage participants to have a Q&A session, just probably briefly, 5 to 10 minutes, if that's possible. Right. Yeah. Please.
I want to share my opinion for today's wonderful session. First, I want to say thank you because you provide a very platform for us to discuss the Indo-Pacific issues. And also, I noticed that your introduction in the first page. I think you have some knowledge about the history, Dr. Deng, right? I think for countries, if we want to do some research about a country's foreign policy, we need to look at the history of the country. Look at the history, the culture, and the ideology. I know, and the ideology. I know that China is a very hot topic in the international world.
Exactly.
Now and in the future. And I kind of see a lot of videos about how people discuss China's topics. But I want to say, like when I'm living in Bangkok now, when I want to do some research about Thailand, I also would look at the history of Thailand. I think this is what we lacked for many students.
Yes, yes.
We just see the foreign policy. We don't see the history. We don't see the value, and we don't see the ideology.
Yes.
The one thing I want to say about maybe just a little bit more information to let you know about China. From the ancient philosophy and value from Mengzi and Kongzi.
Yes.
Maybe you know we always holding the value like 中庸之道, like we don't want to be the top one, and we just want to be the second one or the third one. So I mean, China's threat is not a right understanding about China's foreign policy. Yeah,
so
maybe
I think this is the misunderstanding. From U.S. perspective, this is the misunderstanding made by U.S. bureaucrats. All right, they think the rise of technology from China is going to threaten U.S. Political threat or to compete against the expansion of political, economic, or military strength of the United States. Yeah, it's correct. Misunderstanding. Yeah. Yeah,
it's from the misunderstanding and also the bounded rationality. I think we learned in the previous class with Adam, the bounded rationality for different countries. Yeah, and I want to answer the question you mentioned in the and firstly, which one we prefer to choose, the multilateralism or minilateralism. If I have to choose one, I think I would like to choose the multilateralism.
Multilateralism.
Yeah. If there is only 3 choices, I will choose the multilateralism.
Multilateralism. Okay. So like Barack Obama and Joe Biden, but Joe Biden is a bit pro hawk based on his MSC advisors mindset. You know, Jack Sullivan. Yeah. I think.
Very unpopular for a short period of time now, Joe Biden.
Joe Biden, yes.
From the popular one to the most unpopular
one to the most popular one. Yes. Agree.
I think in my opinion, I think maybe for Americans, they just are thinking we need to choose one from the 2 bad one. One is bad, one is not bad.
Right. Thank you, Fang Fang. You have done a great job. All right.
Fang, thank you. Thank you.
For my input, like my opinions, like if in this to be like a realist religions, I think they're going to be a clash if you are powerful nations. And it's not be a coexist actually. And you can see the history is repeated. So it doesn't mean that you are true or the wrong on the right side. It's which side you have more people, like the economic benefits. Real empire. So I think it's the politics within the organization. Like in the China, if they have new president, they're going to have a new way of moving around the politics. Because like the Xi is being for a long time.
Policy change, right?
Change, like talking about the policy change. So it's in the US, you have to change all the time because it always changes 4 years or 8 years of the president administration. So this is the part of I think, for the foreign policy. For the ASEAN, I think sometimes I just make it fun. Just being like a Thailand, you buy 2 submarines from the China and you're going to buy the F-35s from the US. So you're going to have a harmony with the both nations. I think we are planning to buy the Navy.
Okay, thank you, Kay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
You raise hand, please.
Yes. First, I would like to share some idea.
Okay.
About I wouldn't say to share. I would like to ask you, scholar out there who study about relationship between Thailand, China, and the world. I do agree with Fang Fang, who admitted that history would have to come into the equation when you judge the decision that a country has to make with another country. Right now, what I've learned is that Thailand has been put in a very tough situation. It can be said that Thailand is a buffer. You see, yeah, between two supreme power. On the one hand, U.S. has been perceived since that two trigger of the atomic bombs, they have been perceived as a supreme power. China hasn't been perceived in the same way, but Thailand has been so little, so that Thailand has to learn how to survive if you study the past. So it is a very tough situation and tough decision for the government to judge whether to go with that one supreme power and to ignore another. So if you study about this, if you put this kind of thing in your thesis, please put a little bit of emphasis on the history, a little touch of history, and then you understand how Thailand has been surviving the wars and everything. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good point. Okay.
Yes,
Anyone else?
Good point.
Perhaps one more.
Thank you, Achan, for today's sharing, because honestly, before the class, I still don't know why Vietnam are in the neutral strategy for the US and the China competition. And because we are in the Southeast Asia in the trap of the competition, and we need to have the neutral strategy one. And also, I have the interest in India too, because when I know that India have played a vital role in the competition and they are outside in the growth of the dot I see. So I think that India might be the newcomer in the competition in the future. For example, like the in 3-1, it's not the 2-1, but the triangle, I think. So because they play, so I think that I learned a lot from your sharing today and the discussion from the classmate. Thank you so much, lecturer.
Okay, thank you. Just a joke. India produce good tea and Vietnam produce good coffee. You can cooperate.
Yeah. Well, I would like to add some of my viewpoints in terms of may I have your name, gentlemen, and with the background of GSPA NIDA. You just mentioned about Thailand has tried to survive during the bipolar competition. Yeah, I totally agree. I recently wrote a nationalism article in terms of the Cold War development. All right, so it was written in Chinese, but it deals with Prime Minister Song Kwan's policy. All right, so during the Cold War. All right, so I noticed that the Thailand has already strived to survive, among the bipolar great powers. So it comes across to my mind, and Thailand has a very very good foreign policy. Not very good, very like a documented foreign policy like the United States, because sometimes when I read about Thailand's foreign policy, sometimes it can be like a very suddenly overthrown by military junta, the military junta, and sometimes their foreign policy swift or change very, very suddenly. All right, and during the World War II, and when Song Kwan stepped down, and there is a free Thai movement in the United States, we see like a very different approaches in Thailand, and I can say Thailand is really unique, really unique. And even on the on the Belt and Road Initiative, if China really wants to go to India Oceans, the first one is that China needs to build up railways through Bangkok. But this project has recently came to a halt. Northern what can I say? Is that Northern Railway Road project, right?
Yes.
It came to a halt now. So still I think I guess this is my my guess, some of the nationalism in Thailand is really on the rise. Am I correct?
Yes. If I can say a few things to the Chinese government, I would say that it is not a time to wage a hostility against any other state. It is the best time for China to make friends, even though some friends would take time to realize the situation and to come to the right decision. It would be similar to a situation where you go after a lady.
Okay, cool.
Lady will not make a decision right away. It takes time, right?
It takes time.
Towards Thailand, China can, of course, China can pull a little string to force Thailand to towards any direction, but China wouldn't do that. China only put a strain on the economical issues. It can put a hold on the mega project. It can put a hold on the granting the students into China. You see?
Yeah.
It can. Chinese can do that with all the right, but play it softer and softer each day, and you will see that Thailand will eventually come to the right decision.
Right decision.
Thailand will have to survive being so little in the middle as a buffer.
A buffer.
You understand? And Thailand will be put as an example, as you quoted as the epitome of an example for other little nations to follow, right? So be patient on that.
Be patient on that. Cool. Yeah.
Cool. Brothers.
Yes, really good.
Okay.
Thumbs up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. So yeah, I think this is the end of the session. I have to reiterate again that the key purpose of this special lecture is that I feel that study of public policy development in this country or maybe in other countries, foreign policy seems to be on the sideline. But it's really kind of like playing a huge role nowadays when it comes to policy development especially in terms of economic policy, right? The world has become more interdependent on each other, stuff like that, globalization stuff. COVID-19 pandemic has shown us that. So I hope that you can apply, like Fang and Kunat has said, that you can apply certain elements of this lecture or maybe other elements of the foreign policy studies into your project in the future, or probably you can adopt it in doing your work and stuff like that. So thank you, Dr. Yu-Cheng. I'm not so familiar to call him that. I call him Terry.
I call him Will as well. I don't
right.
Very familiar with the Professor Dhiyathad.
Okay, so thank you, Dr. Terry, and thank you all participants. So
thank you.
Should we have the group photo, please? Terry, could you just stop sharing the screen and then we can have a group photo taken?
Yes. Yeah, I took one photo as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, show to my...
Okay. Kun Prateepporn, are you here? Yeah. Kun Dhiyaw? Or... Oh, yeah, could be. Okay, you help us, right? Okay. First, let's put it in the large gallery. All right. Okay, if any one of you are able to turn on your camera, please do so. Okay, how many pages? We have only 1 or 2 pages of screenshot, right? I'm not sure because we are 14 here, but see. All right. Okay, you ready? Could be. Can you say 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3.
Okay, just one more. Just one more.
Do you want egg? All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank
All
you
right,
so
thank you.
much.
Thank
Have
you.
a good day. Have a good day, everyone. Thank you for coming and thank you for joining the discussion.
Thank you very
Terry.
much.
See you.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. See you. See you guys.
See
Bye
you guys.
bye.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.